All right, welcome everyone. This is Scott from Scott's Top Tips. We're going to talk about the science of cleaning grease. Okay? So always keep this in mind when you are cleaning grease. So first off, any type of grease that you have that gets caked onto your dishes or whatever, the way science works to break that down is any type of degreaser, like for this case, dish soap, which is one of the best degreasers out there and it's super cheap. What that does is, and I'll just keep this in layman speak, but I'm going to put a graphic up here as well that you can really look at the scientific terms. There's one scientific term that I am going to talk about, and that's Micelles. And in short, what happens is the degreasers on the molecular level, they bind basically these tails, they bind to the grease molecule. But then you have the head of the tail that also binds over to the water, right? So that's connected to the water, then the tails are connected to the grease molecule. And what happens is they all surround that molecule, kind of like pins in a pin cushion, and isolate that molecule, and then separate it from, your dish or whatever, then basically suspend it in the water, okay? And that's how everything gets pulled out. So keeping this in mind when you're cleaning grease is very helpful, because you're going to put the optimal amount of degreaser to water for that to happen. And it happens instantaneously, a few seconds that is going on, right? Now, you can't look at a microscope, your common microscope, to see that work. It's at the nanometer level. So a nanometer, understand this, a meter is 3 feet. A nanometer is 1/1000th of 1 meter, right? So you need some high powerful electron microscopes to actually see that work, but we really don't need to. Just knowing that that's how that works, because you want to get your solution in play for the degreaser. Now, one factor that does help with the grease is you want to use hot water, or at least some type of warm water. Okay? That's why when they say wash your hands with warm water, basically what's happening is that heat is also softening up those molecules of grease. Okay? And then when they're softening up, that allows for the degreaser, right, the micelle, to form, right? That's that condition, the pin in the pin cushion condition, to actually separate it out. Okay, so I'm going to just switch the camera here, and I'm going to show you just some of the degreasing here and just some of the solutions to actually make this work. And you always keep this in mind when you're cleaning grease. You don't need to buy expensive products. Okay, most of just the household products work. You just need to implement them in the correct way. It's kind of like working out. You don't need extremely heavy weight, right? But if you are focused, if you're trying to lift on your bicep or whatever, you want to be concentrated. This is coming from Arnold and a lot of these other super big, knowledgeable bodybuilders. It's the focus and the effectiveness and the technique, right, of doing your exercise that you see more results. Same thing here. So let me turn the camera and let me show you this. Okay, we're going to get the warm water going, and it's cold, so I'm going to let that warm up just for a little bit here, like that. And once that warms up, I'm going to put the solution in. So what you're looking at is basically for a heavy caked on grease and just a bunch of gunk and stuff, 1 to 9 is what they say. Or you can do a teaspoon for every 4 quarts. That's kind of hard to remember, so you just remember 1 to 9. That is in a super effective amount to put into your degreaser. Okay. All right, so that's getting warm. And then I'm going to cover this up here. Happy for YouTube sakes and all that advertising stuff, but this is just a regular dish soap. Okay, and I am just going to put a little bit in to this greasy pan here. But what I'm going to do is put water in there first. Okay, That's what we're gonna do. That's all really nasty. Okay, there we go. So that is good warm water. So I'm gonna first put this in. Let me just show you here. A little bit of water. Okay, let's do a little bit more because I want it to get up there. Okay, as you can see, it's basically what I have. Now, I'm just going to do a little bit here. Okay? It's going to be something like this. That's it. All you need. Now, you just want to move this around to get the Micelles condition formulated here, right? For that to happen. You can see it's already mixing in. So you don't need all kinds of bubbles and soapy, all of that stuff. Where suds come in is if you need to have suds stick to the side pans, kind of like that. That's enough to have that Micelles condition occur and for it to start isolating the grease molecules. But if stuff's down into the pan, just leave it down there, okay? But I'll go ahead. And as you mix it up, another thing is the friction. So the friction is actually going to help loosen it up as well. So letting it sit allows for the Micelles formation to occur. And then from there, you can just agitate it and just kind of mix it up. And that helps friction, get it off of the pan here. Okay, so I'm just going to keep putting a lot of that on there. Now, another thing water does is it does soften it up and loosen up. So if you have caked on grease and just gunk, you will have to let it soak just for a little bit so it can penetrate. But on the top layer of that gunk, the Micelles formation is already occurring. So it's basically peeling off each layer, but you would just let it soak and you agitate it and it lifts everything off. Okay, so I just do that. We'll just let that chill like that. And then again, I'm just going to have a common scraper here, so a sponge here with some of the scrubbing surface. And I'll be able to scrub all that off. Just going to keep that in there. Okay, here we go. So now, that's probably enough. This stuff wasn't caked on. Agitate it out, scrape it out. It's already occurring, right? Remember the molecule in the diagram for the graphic that I posted there, showed you. That is isolating the grease molecules. Just helps scrub it and scrape it off. And then, of course, another reason why you don't want to use a lot of soap, because then you don't want all kinds of residue on your pans here. So here we go. And you do a rinse. And again, I'm going to do that warm water. There we go. You see, all clean. So keep that in mind when you're doing your next cleaning, and everything should be productive for you, make your cleaning much easier. And this is Scott from Scott's Top Tips. Hey, we'll see you on the next one.